on the Accusations against the Albigensians by Raynaldus. A 13th century text translated in 1832 for the larger work History of the Albigenses and Waldenses. First, it is to be known that the heretics hold that there are two creators, viz., one of the invisible things, whom they call the benevolent God, and another of visible things, whom they name the malevolent God. The New Testament they attributed to the benevolent God, but the Old Testament to the malevolent God, and rejected it altogether, except certain authorities which are inserted in the New Testament from the Old, which out of reverence to the New Testament they esteem worthy of reception. They charge the author of the Old Testament with falsehood, because the Creator said, "In the day that ye eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, ye shall die. Nor, as they say, after eating did they die, when in fact after eating the forbidden fruit they were subjected to the misery of death." They also call him a homicide, as well because he burned up Sodom and Gomorrah and destroyed the world by the waters of the deluge, as because he overwhelmed Pharaoh and the Egyptians in the sea. They affirm also that all the fathers of the Old Testament were damned, that John the Baptist was one of the greater demons. They said also that in their secret doctrine, in secreto suo, that Christ, who was born in the visible and terrestrial Bethlehem and crucified in Jerusalem, was a bad man, and that Mary Magdalene was his concubine, and that she was the woman taken in adultery, of whom we read in the Gospel. For the good Christ, as they said, never ate, nor drank, nor took upon him true flesh, nor even was in this world, except spiritually in the body of Paul. They said that almost all the church of Rome was a den of thieves, and that it was the harlot of which we read in the Apocalypse. They so far annulled the sacraments of the church as publicly to teach that the water of holy baptism was just the same as river water, and that the host of the most holy body of Christ did not differ from common bread, instilling into the ears of the simple this blasphemy that the body of Christ, even though it had been as great as the Alps, would have been long ago consumed and annihilated by those who had eaten of it. Confirmation and confession they considered as altogether vain and frivolous. They preached that holy matrimony was meretricious, and that none could be saved in it if they should beget children. Denying also the resurrection of the flesh, they invented some unheard of notions, saying that our souls are those of angelic spirits, who being cast down from heaven by the apostasy of pride, left their glorified bodies in the air. And that these souls themselves, after successively inhabiting 7 terrene bodies, of one sort or another, having at length fulfilled their penance, return to those deserted bodies. It is also to be known that some among the heretics were called perfect or good men, others believers of the heretics. Those who were called perfect wore a black dress, falsely pretended to chastity, abhorred the eating of flesh, eggs, and cheese, wished to appear not liars, when they were continually telling lies, chiefly respecting God. They said also that they ought not on any account to swear. Those were called believers of the heretics, who lived after the manner of the world, and who, though they did not attain so far as to imitate the life of the perfect, nevertheless hoped to be saved in their faith. And though they differed as to their mode of life, they were one with them in belief and unbelief. Those who were called believers of the heretics were given to usury, rapine, homicide, lust, perjury, and every vice. And they, in fact, sinned with more security and less restraint, because they believed that without restitution, without confession and penance, they should be saved, if only when on the point of death they could say a pater noster, and received imposition of hands from the teachers. As to the perfect heretics, however, they had a magistracy, whom they called deacons and bishops, without the imposition of whose hands, at the time of his death, none of the believers thought that he could be saved. But if they laid their hands upon any dying man, however wicked, if he could only say a pater noster, they considered him to be saved, that without any satisfaction and without any other aid, he immediately took wing to heaven.